picture us trying to get all these fighters, and that's what they were, is fighters, into this dump truck. And now we get ambushed again in the riverbed. So we clearly have a situation on our hands. And immediately what happens is I hear on the radio that LCol Jay, whose call sign was, I think, Golf 2-1, was down. So I've got a platoon over there, a platoon over there, a platoon over here. I'm in the center, and I've got a bunch of Afghan detainees who, while I am not responsible for, there's a certain amount of responsibility that I have for them, because they're between us and the enemy, and I don't want to create a situation in which their lives are needlessly in danger. Because I'm not. There's a nuance here. The Afghans were our friendly Afghan forces were responsible for them ultimately, but ethically, I have a responsibility to make sure that they're not caught literally in the crossfire.
They also surely are a threat, because if they escape...
And they're a threat. So things that you can't learn in school. So there's Captain Adair on his first day as the company commander, in an ambush with a bunch of Afghan detainees in between him and the guys shooting at him. When I say him, us. So, and I've also have LCol Jay Adair, who's just been hit by an RPG, and she's dead.
Did you know she was dead?
I knew fairly quickly she was dead, based on some chatter I could hear. So on the radio, in a situation like that, you have a headset on, but you hear two different things so each side is a different net. But I could tell from the lower net that she was dead.
So, is now the time to ask you about her? Did you know her?
I didn't know her well. I knew her from Shiloh because we both lived there and we were relatively the same age. So I knew her socially from the mess. She's a very quiet girl, lady. Very, very, how would I describe her? She was a very real person. Very sincere and earnest, and I would describe her as perceptive. And she was in quite a position. I mean, there she is as a 24-year-old forward observation officer in combat, surrounded by a bunch of hard-charging infantry guys, and she never missed a beat. I talked about being cool and calm in the face of kind of danger. She had that. I've seen other people that are very good at it. I've never seen anyone better than her. That day, up until the point where she was killed, she was juggling so many different things. I mean, she was juggling, we were calling an artillery fire. She had to make sure the Apache helicopters were not in danger of being fired upon by the artillery. There were some other air assets and surveillance assets that she was coordinating. And she never, and I don't just say this, she never missed a beat. It was all, and you could tell she was experienced, but you could also tell, her emotions were in check and she was focused on what she needed to be doing at the time.
And you could tell this through the radio?
Yeah, just absolute calm, and it bred confidence in the company, for sure, because, the infantry is the queen of battle, but the artillery, as they like to remind us, are the king of battle. So, no, it was tragic, but we were in combat.
Sorry, she was the first NATO soldier, female NATO soldier, to be killed in combat, I believe.
I think that's true.
Is it possible you could say that? We're pretty confident about that.
I'm almost certain that's true. As a combat, the first female soldier killed in combat that was fulfilling a combat role.
In NATO?
I'm not sure, but I think you're right. So there were, there historically, I think there have been nurses killed in various missions. But I think, her role was she was a forward observation officer in the artillery, confronting as much danger or more, because she had to be in a position of observation, as any one of us. And yeah. The other thing I'll mention about that day, and it speaks to what I spoke of earlier, and that's the Canadian soldier. So amidst all of this, and picture again that row of labs. Now, I don't know where the detainees have hightailed it. So I'm not particularly concerned about them anymore because I have other things to be worried about.
They've hightailed it under the guard of the Afghan National Police?
The Afghan National Police and the Afghan detainees have left.
Good.
They're gone. So that takes that out of the equation, if I can call it an equation. So amidst all of this, so picture labs firing, picture dusk approaching, reports of casualties, Canadian casualties, which later proved to be unfounded. So chaos. And all of a sudden, a Toyota van, comes down a road and stops. So the first thing that we all think of is that thing is full of explosives. So the reaction of the guys, before I said a word, was to stop firing. And it's just one of those things that I'll never forget it. Outpours a family. Kids, women, a father. So they're between us and the Taliban. They've come out in this van and they've stopped. And again, we had every reason to fire on that thing. No one fires. Outpours this family. And you can just hear, and emotions are running high. I mean, they've just killed our foo. And this family just bails out of the vehicle and runs behind us. So pretty, not behind the Taliban, behind us. Yeah.
Maybe the driver, the father, realized that if he continued to drive, he probably would have been killed.
Right, but symbolically, and we talked about this after, was they didn't hide behind the Taliban for safety.